man. And the way you have to host this show, you have to be very objective. But did you think about, just for a second, pulling out the Art Schlichter jersey and putting it on?
During one of the calls that I've already taken tonight, I was going to point out, as somebody was congratulating me, that I could run this channel in a different way. I could have certainly started this channel as an Ohio State fan, just like other YouTubers that you enjoy and others enjoy, and just be like, and I could be totally blatant on, this is what I want, this is what I love, this is da-da-da-da. I'm just not that type. And it would be very boring to me throughout the year just to kind of put on the team colors and to scream and rant and rave and be biased. That just isn't me.
You know what, you become like, you try to become like Kirk Herbstreit has become, you know, where obviously he knows everybody knows he's a Buckeye through and through, but you know, you have to be objective. You have to be objective. I try that.
Yeah. Did you see my prediction on Patreon?
I did. Well, listen. I predicted earlier I was not as confident as I was a year ago, and I just have to say, we just witnessed the best performance by a Buckeye quarterback you're ever going to see in your life. Number one, I don't think you can play any better than Justin played tonight, and I think he made a statement. I have my doubts, but I do think having the time off. I think Coach Day devising a great game plan. I think getting back Olave. I do think, though, the thing that cannot be mistaken about this game is the Buckeyes dominated the line of scrimmage, Mark Rogers. They dominated in the trenches. And that's where I really did have some confidence coming in. If there was one thing that gave me hope, it was that, well, it was two things. That we would see the Justin Fields maybe we saw early in the year, and then that we would dominate the trenches. And we did both tonight. And I can't say enough of this offensive line, Mark. I thought they were just top-notch. Have you seen a Buckeyes offensive line play this well in a long time?
No. This used to be the bugaboo against the SEC teams that had the elite speed, where I thought the Ohio State teams were just as good, except for one key area. They couldn't get those left and right tackles out on the flank quick enough because they weren't athletic enough to keep those SEC defensive ends out of the quarterback's lap. But the protection, think about all those long bombs, those darts that Justin Fields had to throw that took so much time. Once he hurt his ribs, I was cringing him standing in the pocket back that long. But man, the offensive line protection that had to be there for him to wait, throw the ball that far, that many times. And those Trey Sermon runs, for as tough and hard-nosed as he was running, and he was running like a man. And I will make the point, I think I just did, that I believe he ran better tonight than he did against Northwestern.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought he was great, but I mean, the holes were there.
Yes,
I mean,
that's my point, that the offensive line, was dominant.
Yes.
How could they have played much better? They were phenomenal.
Sure. Well, I will just say this, Mark. I think that basically what we're seeing is an offense that's peaking on both sides of the ball, which gives me encouragement. The other thing that I really like is this defensive line, which I was encouraged by. I know everybody said there's not a Chase Young or Bosa. Just be honest, folks. Those are Haley's Comet guys. They only come around once every so often. And Ohio State was so fortunate to have a run of three guys that were that good. But this defensive line, their two defensive tackles are as good as anybody in the country. And Cooper and Smith are starting to play really good ball at defensive end. So I like this D-line. I really do. I mean, we've had better D-lines in the past. And you know what? That's the other thing, too. Where, you mentioned the SEC teams. That's what we learned from the SEC teams, is that you have to recruit really good defensive linemen that can get after the quarterback. I mean, you're right. We played that Florida game. We couldn't block their two defensive ends. They were living in the backfield the entire game. I think that was a little bit of game planning. They could have, maybe ran the ball a little bit more, but still. Yeah, I agree. Hey, I got to ask you this question, Mark. what do you think the over on the Bama-Ohio State game is going to be? I'm just saying, I think that most people are going to expect a shootout. I mean, I think that Bama's got good talent on defense, but I think we can throw the ball on them a little bit. Their offense is as good as I've seen at Alabama, and I thought they were incredible a year ago. So, yeah, I think you're going to see the scoreboard light up.
I hope people understand where this is coming from when I state this, because this has nothing to do with me being an Ohio State fan. I will liken it to being a baseball fan and saying the Yankees and the Dodgers are in the World Series. This is the way it should be. Or being a college basketball fan and having a Kentucky-North Carolina final and saying this is the way it should be.
Sure. Sure.
Yes. And understand, regardless of the team that you root for, I'm stating this, believe it or not as an Ohio State fan. There is something magical, special to just the brands, the history, the legacy, and the current talent on these two teams that says this is the way it should be. Ohio State, Alabama national championship game.
Let me make a statement to that point, and this will illustrate it perfectly. The number 1 and number 2 classes in recruiting coming into this year are guess which 2 teams? And the number 1 and number 2 programs who put players in the NFL are what 2 programs?
Absolutely. And for as good as Clemson has been, and you've made this point, and we've had this discussion, as good as Clemson has been, their greatness has been, in addition to recruiting well, that they've actually outplayed the recruiting ranking. Their recruiting rankings until very recently haven't been phenomenal.
Yes.
They've won national championships with like an average class of 7 or 8. These are the 2 programs that have matched the recruiting and the NFL talent with the results more than anyone.
Well, I think what Clemson did, to be fair to them, is they've caught 2 of the greatest college quarterbacks we've seen in most recent memory.
Yeah.
That's also elevated them. Because Deshaun Watson, you mentioned, he was your Heisman winner in 2016, and he would have been mine. And, I think Trevor Lawrence is about as good a college quarterback as I've seen. Obviously going to be probably still the number 1 pick. And, he had some struggles tonight, but I thought he wasn't the reason they lost. Let's be honest. They just couldn't stop Ohio State. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. Their recruiting has come up, but Ohio State and Alabama over the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years, there's no doubt. Georgia's kind of gotten into that discussion recruiting-wise the last few years as well. I just got to say, I'm glad the curse of Woody Hayes is over with. I am so proud of this team. On to Miami, and let's hope for a classic.
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much for the call. It was it's a historic night on many fronts, no question.
Bring back the Arch Schleister jersey. Bye.